$380 billion. That is what it's worth today, in 2026. The company founded by 7 employees who left OpenAI. Not 7 mediocre executives who got tired of the boss. The architects of GPT-3, the technology that put OpenAI on the world map. They left. They took their brains with them and built a rival that today grows 3 times faster than OpenAI. But the brutal part isn't the money. It's the motive. They didn't leave for a better salary. They left because they were convinced OpenAI was betraying its very reason for existing. OpenAI was created with a single goal: to make artificial intelligence safe for the entire world. So, why did the people who cared most about that safety end up leaving?
The key to this story is a simple question. What happens when you build a company to save the world? But to function, you need money from someone who just wants to profit? Sooner or later, someone slams the door. And the dangerous part isn't that they lead your cab, it's what they take in their heads when they go.
To understand how we got here, we need to go back to 2015, when artificial intelligence was more frightening than profitable. That year, a group of Silicon Valley visionaries comes together with an idea that sounds like science fiction: to create a non-profit artificial intelligence lab. Open, transparent, no shareholders. Simple premise: if AI will change the world, humanity should control it, not a single corporation. Among the founders, 2 names matter. Sam Altman, a 30-year-old entrepreneur running Y Combinator, where small companies find investors to grow as fast as possible. And Elon Musk, who puts $100 million of his own money in. 9 other co-founders join, including Ilya Sutskever, a Google researcher many consider one of the greatest living geniuses in artificial intelligence. They name it OpenAI. Open because everything they research will be public. Legal structure: non-profit organization. Nobody makes money. Nobody holds shares. Stated goal: develop safe artificial intelligence and share its benefits with all of humanity. Spoiler: that non-profit thing is going to last them exactly 4 years. In 2016, someone joins the company who'll change everything. His name is Dario Amodei, Princeton neuroscientist, quiet, methodical, and obsessed with 2 things: that AI is going to scale brutally, and that someone needs to prepare for it. He's not here for money. He believes in the mission. In 2 years, researcher to safety lead, then research director, and finally, VP of Research, the top technical role at OpenAI. His sister Daniela arrives soon after and becomes VP of Safety and Policy. Together, the Amodei siblings control the technical and ethical heart of the company. And then, in June 2020, Dario's team builds something that changes everything. It's called GPT-3. A language model with 175 billion parameters. Put simply, the first time a machine can write an email, draft code, hold a fluid conversation, and sound almost human. The world is left speechless. But inside OpenAI, the people who built it don't celebrate. They tremble, because they see something the public can't see yet. This scales. The bigger you make the model, the smarter it gets. And nobody, absolutely nobody, knows where the ceiling is.
This is where the real story begins. The world saw GPT-3 and thought it impressive, but the engineers who built it admitted to thought something very different. This is going to be much more power, and we are not remotely ready. Dario Amodei den Sigport to produce ons research months, and he had the clarity to understand it, and that if nobody prepared for what could have next. Abua. too late.
This is where everything goes wrong. A year before GPT-3, in 2019, OpenAI had made a decision that would change its fate, accepting a $1 billion investment from Microsoft. To accept that money, they had to contradict their own essence, create a for-profit subsidiary. The idea? Investors could profit, but capped. If Microsoft invested $1 billion, the most they could earn was $100 billion. Everything the company earned above that would go to the original nonprofit. But if you're thinking $100 billion in profit doesn't sound very non-profit, welcome to the club. For Dario Amodei, that investment was an alarm signal, not because of the money itself, but because of what the money demanded. Microsoft didn't invest $1 billion to fund open safety research. They invested $1 billion to get a product. And a product needs speed, launches, market share, the exact opposite of, let's make sure this is safe before releasing it. Inside OpenAI, a silent war began. Sam Altman and the leadership pushed toward commercialization. More models, faster, bigger. Amodei and his team insist safety must advance at the same pace as capability. Not after, not as an add-on. At the same time. But when you've got $1 billion from Microsoft on the table and pressure to become the world's top AI company, who wins that internal war?
There is a quote from Dario Amodei that sums it all up. He said, years later, in an interview, that it was incredibly unproductive to change someone else's vision from within. Sounds soft, but hides a brutal lesson. When your company leadership has already chosen its path, you have only two options: adapt or leave. And if the stakes are something you consider vital, leaving isn't getting up. It is the bravest move you can make.
In December 2020, 7 people leave OpenAI. These aren't just any 7 people. They are Dario Amodei, the man who led GPT-3, Daniela Amodei, who designed the safety protocols, Tom Brown, the researcher who wrote the paper explaining how GPT-3 worked, a document later cited by thousands of researchers worldwide and basically became the instruction manual for the AI revolution, Jack Clark, the policy director who negotiated with governments, Jared Kaplan, the scientist who discovered scaling laws, the math that predicts how much a model improves when you make it bigger, Sam McCandlish, training architect, and Chris Olah, one of the world's top experts in understanding what happens inside a neural network. They took the brains, they took the knowledge, and they took something more dangerous than any patent: the certainty that AI would scale exponentially, and the conviction that preparation was needed now. Sam Altman watched them leave. OpenAI had 11 co-founders at birth, and with this exodus, the departure had barely begun. But what Altman didn't know, what nobody could know in December 2020, was that those 7 minds weren't going to rest. They were going to build something that in 5 years would be worth more than most companies on the planet. They called it Anthropic. And what comes next is far worse than what Sam Altman imagined. In January 2021, the 7 fugitives make their first move. They found Anthropic with $124 million in initial funding. But they're not going to build another OpenAI. They're going to build the opposite. The idea is radical and simple. If AI keeps getting more powerful, safety can't just be a department inside the company. Safety has to be the company, not a supplement, not an add-on, the core. They invent something called constitutional AI, a way to train artificial intelligence by giving it a set of written rules, like a constitution. Instead of relying on thousands of people telling the model, this is right, this is wrong, they give it a document with principles and teach it to evaluate itself. Cheaper, more transparent, and above all, more controllable.
Think of it this way. OpenAI created a safety team inside a product company. Anthropic did the reverse on the safety company that also makes products. Sounds the same, but the difference is emerges. When the pressure to make money increases, safety is often the first thing that gets reduced. At Anthropic, clean safety would be like removing the engine from the car.
Meanwhile, at OpenAI, the commercial bet pays off, and in a way nobody expected. In November 2022, they launch ChatGPT. In 5 days, it has 1 million users. In 2 months, 100 million. It's the fastest-growing tech product in history. Microsoft injects another $10 billion. Sam Altman becomes the face of the AI revolution. OpenAI goes from non-profit lab to one of the most valuable companies in the world. But inside, the war over safety hasn't disappeared. It was only hibernating. On November 17, 2023, Sam Altman's phone rings. It's Ilya Sutskever, the genius who'd been there since day one, co-founder, chief scientist. He tells him to join a video call. Altman joins and finds the entire board of directors waiting for him. They tell him, "You're fired, effective immediately." What follows are the 4 most chaotic days in Silicon Valley history. Microsoft, which invested $13 billion, finds out 1 minute before the announcement. They name Mira Murati interim CEO, but the next day replace her with Emmett Shear, Twitch's co-founder, who becomes OpenAI's 3rd CEO in 3 days. Altman tries to negotiate his return, but talks collapse, and Microsoft offers to build a new team inside the company. Then comes the final blow. 667 of OpenAI's 770 employees sign a letter threatening to leave if the board doesn't resign and Altman doesn't return. 4 days after being fired, Sam Altman is reinstated as CEO. The board that ousted him vanishes. The irony: Ilya Sutskever, who led the coup, signs the employee's letter asking Altman to return. 2 days after firing him, he publicly regrets it.
What does this coup have to do with our story? Everything. They tried firing Altman for putting money before safety. The exact same reason Dario Amodei left 3 years before. The difference: Amodei left quietly and built something. The board tried to stop him from the inside, and failed.
After the coup, the exodus accelerates. Ilya Sutskever holds on a few months, but in May 2024, he leaves OpenAI. He founds Safe Superintelligence, dedicated entirely to safe AI. No products, no clients, only research. Today, it's worth $32 billion, without having sold a thing. Jan Leike, head of OpenAI's advanced safety team, resigns the same month. His resignation letter is devastating. Safety culture has taken a back seat to shiny products. He goes straight to Anthropic. In September 2024, Mira Murati, the interim CEO during the coup, also leaves. She founds Thinking Machines Lab. In less than a year, she raises $2 billion, and her company is worth $12 billion. Those who left OpenAI didn't sit idle. They've built over 18 companies, and at least 7 are worth more than $1 billion each. Their combined value exceeds $500 billion. Of OpenAI's 11 original co-founders, only 2 remain today. And now, the numbers that sum it all up. OpenAI is worth $730 billion and earns $25 billion a year. Anthropic, the 7 Fugitives company, is worth $380 billion, earns $14 billion, and grows 3 times faster. At this pace, it could surpass OpenAI in revenue before 2026 ends. But this story isn't over. In 2026, the tension between safety and money has jumped from boardrooms to politics, and has a name. The Trump administration wants AI without restrictions, fast, cheap, and at the government's service. Anthropic refuses. Dario Amodei insists there are lines you don't cross. No military use, no mass surveillance, no releasing models without control. That stance has cost him. Shut out of billion-dollar contracts with the Pentagon and the federal government. Who filled the gap? OpenAI. Altman signed the military contracts, dropped the ban on military use, and became the White House's top tech ally. Amodei's response was blunt. He called OpenAI liars and accused them of safety theater, claiming to care about safety while signing military contracts. And from all of this come 3 lessons every entrepreneur should tattoo on themselves.
First lesson: when you abandon the principle that made you, you don't lose idealists, but you create your worst competitors.
People who know all your secrets, all your technology, and all your weaknesses. And they're motivated. They'll prove your path was wrong. That's exactly what happened to OpenAI. The 7 who left didn't build just any company. They built the company OpenAI should have been. And now, they're gaining ground at a speed no one expected.
Second lesson: you can't stop a money-making machine from the inside.
OpenAI's board tried it with a coup and failed in 4 days. Dario Amodei understood it first. The only way to compete with a vision you don't share is to build your own. But there's a price. Amodei admitted it in early 2026. His own company struggles to balance safety with profits. The same tension that made him leave OpenAI now haunts him at Anthropic. Investors, growth pressure, and a race where second place wins nothing. He built a company to escape a problem, and the problem followed him.
Third lesson: this one is for you. What is the principle that made you start your project, your business, your path? Because money always comes, and when it does, it asks you to go faster and worry less.
Sam Altman stayed and accepted the new direction. Today, he runs a $730 billion company. Dario Amodei left and built his own. Today, he runs one worth $380 billion. They were both right. They both paid a price. And they both know the game isn't over yet.